Hi guys. So today we're going to be kind of working with a couple of different Lego robots in various different configurations, and we're going to try and plow these wood chips. Under these wood chips, there are 4 zones, and we're going to try and award points based on how much each plow clears out and in how much time. Whoever plows the most fastest is going to win. Unfortunately, due to some regulations, we're having to use the chat. So we're going to kind of go with the chat voting system. We have both robots, and we have 3 different types of plows. So we'll be able to try and configure them. These plows can also be kind of articulated, so they can be set at an angle relative to the robot, and that'll be kind of fun. So the first, I guess, vote that I want to call is, which robot would you like to start with? We have the 2-wheel unicycle model robot. And we have the cool-looking tank tread kind of robot. Who's going to be first? Don't be shy, and it doesn't matter. We can run one or the other. Also, be thinking about which plow you want to try. We have a simple, flat one, very smooth.
We have a vote for the first one, the 2-wheel.
Okay, so we'll run with the 2-wheel one. All right, and then we need to pick which of these plows we want. We've got one that's got these little kind of ears on it. We have a very wide plow, and we have a very kind of narrow but hard and smooth plow. So be thinking about which one of those you want to run with.
Roger's saying since we're in the distance, we should take off the mask.
Okay, that sounds fair. How's that? Can you hear me? Any clearer, hopefully? Okay, so we have plow A, plow B, and plow C. Let's see, who wants to vote for which plow to try with? We'll start with the first. Straight back.
We have a vote for plow B.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll try plowing with plow B. And we're just going to try and plow straight to the end. How's that sound? Let's get this put on. And then we'll get to plowing. Okay. Slow. Okay. Okay. So 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh. Having some difficulty with it. Make sure everything's still set up correct. Should plow something. Colliding ground or anything. Ooh, a good effort. We're trying. All right. Well, we're no longer plowing our designated zone. And so why don't we say that from the regions here, we've plowed about half of it. Okay. So we can try changing up the code to make it run and do something slightly different, or we can try and change the plow angle or the plow itself and see how that changes the outcome. Let's start by putting this back together. And while that's kind of happening, people can kind of decide what they want to do for the next bit. I think we don't try and plow too much. We can move stuff off to the side. That might make it so that we can go a little bit further.
If you just try and plow all of these chips at once, it's going to be too much. Our little Lego robot can't quite handle it.
So just to recap, for those of you that are just tuning in, our goal here is we have an arena full of wood chips that's kind of representing snow on a city street. And we're trying to figure out the best way for our robot plow to clear these chips in the fastest time possible. So we've done one pass where we just kind of plow straight ahead with our scooped plow, Plow B, and it did okay, but we're looking for what we can do better this time. So we can change the plow, or we can change the angle of the plow, or we can change our motion strategy, because this time we just kind of went straight ahead. So don't be shy. Go ahead, throw any suggestions you have in the chat, and we'll see what we do next.
Okay, yeah, so we have the plow that's on it, which is Plow B. We have a kind of thin but firm and kind of smooth looking Plow A, which is a little thinner. And we have, can you pull that one over there? We have a much wider, ignore or forgive the tape, but it's a much wider plow than Plow C. And we can also change the strategy for how we're going to try and plow. Last time we just tried to drive completely straight. It went some distance, but then it got so full of chips that it couldn't keep going. It didn't have enough power. Maybe there's another way we can try and dump some of the chips so we're not trying to constantly haul them all with us. Don't worry about you can suggest we can run as many of these as we want. There's not a limit, so feel free to throw stuff out. In the meantime, here, how about we just try and run and we get a good run back for it? Let's see what happens if we try and plow, and then we'll just, when we stop, we'll back up. Maybe that'll do it. Certainly working a little faster can build up a little momentum and lose some of the chips. Now we're coming back into the tire. Look how we're going to clearing past those chips. Uh-oh, now we're just off angle. That's too bad. I would say this did a much better job of getting rid of some of these chips, but it just kind of built them up all over here. If this were your sidewalk, it would be like dumping all of your snow at one part of the sidewalk. Not really what we want. How about we try and angle it maybe? Or in the meantime, we can also try using the other plow variants. Can you plug in the Plow B on that one while I'm fixing this? Kind of you plug one of them in and kind of see what this one looks like, for instance. There's those 4 pins on each one. On top, it goes on top, and you push them up from the bottom. So I've dumped change the plow, so the plow is now kind of at an angle. Let's get these chips back in kind of the right place. I'll give this one a shot again. Next up will be the tank treads one, and we'll see if that does us any better. Right. Let's give it a shot. No, still kind of the same thing. Oh, we are doing a little bit better though. As you can see, just backing up and kind of reattempting to go through doesn't quite get us all the way there. It'll eventually get us there, though, maybe. Just keeps making slightly less and less progress. Okay, no, I think we're about done there. But that did much better. It got us, pretty much just shy of 3 full units completed. So that's kind of neat. Deflecting these chips to the side kind of helps us move it out of the way so we can get further down the track and use more effort on the later passes.
So I noticed when we did that, sometimes the wheels kind of slipped over some of the chips that were out on the field. Maybe if we try a robot with a little bit more traction, maybe it'll work a little bit better. So why don't we try this one with the tank treads, doing the same thing, and see if it works any better.
So on that one, it got kind of pushed a little bit to the side. So when this plow is deflecting chips to the left, it gets moved to the right. Oops, sorry. So like I said, when this plow is moving chips to the left, there's a force that pushes it to the right. That's why it kind of left the track. That more traction did mean that it was able to push a little bit harder on this, but doesn't account for the force that we're getting from here. What do you want to try next? Plow blades on here. Probably should start with this back.
So does anyone have any ideas about what we can try next? Feel free to leave your answers in the chat. So we have 2 robots, and they're the same, but a little bit different. So we have this one, which is the one we just ran. So they both have a way for the plow to attach on the front. The difference is that we have this robot, which has the caterpillar tracks so that it can move along a bit rougher terrain. And then we also have a very similar robot with just 2 wheels. So it's just got 2 rubber wheels, and it can turn and kind of go like this. And we can attach any of plow that we want to the front of either of them. So we have 3 different types of plows. We have this plow, which is kind of a scoop. So we can kind of build up the chips in this area. We also have kind of a more narrow plow that's very rigid. It looks like this. And then we have a longer plow that it just extends further away from the edges of the robot. So these are our plows. We can put any of these on any of the robots. And then we can also try different techniques and strategies for moving. So right now we've tried backing up and going forward. We've tried that on the two wheels and on the tracks. We've tried angling the plow, but we noticed that the last time we did that, we kind of had the force of pushing those chips caused our robot to kind of drift off to this side. So is there anything you think we can do to fix that problem so that we maybe go a bit more straight? Yeah. Well, let's see. So we kept getting pushed to the side last time. So maybe what if we do something different where we adjust and we adjust to move a little bit back in the direction that we left. So since the chips kind of push our robot this way, what if instead we do our same thing, except we kind of always keep trying to curve a little bit to the left so that we don't get pushed to the side? Let's try that. Kind of the same story. Yeah. So it seems that even if we just constantly keep turning by a little bit, we still have this problem where the weight of these chips keeps us from going in a straight line. So it seems like we seem to have a bit of a problem here. We've been doing this with the scoop. Maybe we should try one of the other kinds of plows. Let's try one of the other shapes of plows. We can either go with this plow, this shape, or the kind of bigger one. And just to recap, we're trying to clear as much of these chips in as short a time as possible. So which of these shapes do you think will work better? We've tried with the scoop, but it seems that we just kind of hang on to a bunch of chips in the scoop, and it makes it harder to push because we keep bringing the chips along with us. So let's try one of these straight ones. So we can go for either the short plow or the long plow. All right, someone says the long plow. So let's do the long plow. Should we keep it at an angle or should we put it straight again? Why don't we keep it at an angle? Oh, no, let's put it straight. Sorry, there we go. All right, so Ian's getting the next one ready. So let's put this one in and let's try going straight.
straighten back again, right?
Yes. Uh-oh, I noticed something. It's still pushing all those chips. It is doing a better job of clearing the path. We're pushing so many of these chips, we're eventually going to kind of stop them, aren't we? I'll let it go until it gets a little bit off track. Really nice job seeing what it does get to go, but it doesn't quite have enough power to do so.
Maybe we'll have better luck with the track variety. Maybe the track variety has enough traction to kind of account for it.
See how it goes. Got some more traction. No, you're stalling. Oh, we're trying. Wow. Look at that one go. That's all it's going to do.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Got most of them cleared.
Yeah, so we got most of the cells cleared, which is good. We still kind of have it all in one big pile at the end. So let's maybe see what would happen. What do you think? What should we do next?
You want to try and do one of the.
Yeah, let's try that. So up until this point, everything we've been doing is just pushing so that we're kind of pushing all the chips forward with us as we go. And we're either doing it at an angle or just straight ahead. But in general, that's going to mean that all of our chips end up in one big pile at the end. And that's not super convenient. You know, if you're shoveling your sidewalk and you just put it all in one big pile at the end of the sidewalk, that hasn't really helped you very much. So maybe there's a way that we can make it so that there are some smaller piles all to the side of where we're going. So to do that, what I'm going to do is we're going to have the robot go straight for a little bit and curve and push the chips off to the side and then come back and go forward again and then push some more off to the side. So that now we're just moving a smaller amount of chips each time. So let's try that with the plow blade facing straight ahead. Let's try to do that, but it can't quite turn and push at the same time.
A little less than one.
A little less than one. That's not great.
What can we do to help it, maybe?
What do you think we can do? We can try using a different shape plow. We can try angling the plow. We can angle it left or right. We can try using the two-wheeled one again. What do you think we should do? Let's see. Well, we keep trying to turn to the left, and it seems to keep pushing us to the right. So maybe if I keep trying to turn a little bit more and correct to the left, maybe that will fix it.
I think maybe this plow isn't the right plow for this strategy. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe not, because it's almost as if when we're pushing, if we're pushing straight, we can push with both sets going at the same speed and pushing the same amount. But when we're turning, in order to turn, one side has to slow down while the other side is going. So it's not able to push as hard. So maybe we should use one of the other plow shapes if we're going to try this curving strategy.
Two-wheel version is a better use, can better use this strategy.
Yeah, should we use one of these other different plows? Should we switch to the two-wheeled version? What do you think? We've had some people playing in the chat, which is good, but I want to see all of you in the chat. You know,
We have time to run and try and plow these chips as much as we want. So more runs is good. It'll tell us all the answers.
yeah. All right. So, okay. So yeah, we want to use a different plow. We've used this one a bunch. We used the scoop at the start. So why don't we try the shorter one? Let's use the small plow. Change this out real quick. Okay. All right.
I wonder if it's able to turn easier, but it can't quite catch those chips, right? So it can turn, because it's not so long, it can turn easier. And it can push the chips to the side like we want, but it can't quite seem to hold its position. Maybe the other one would work. Maybe we can angle this.
Yeah. Why don't we try angling this plow to the side? So since we're curving this way, I'm going to angle the plow so that it's pointing more towards the left. All right. So now we're angled to the left. So now let's see if that works better. I'm realizing I made a mistake there. Hang on. I want to reset it real quick. All right, let's try that again.
Too much to plow. This one's not really all that good at turning, huh?
Yeah. So this one with the tracks doesn't seem to want to turn very well. Maybe we should try it with the two-wheel version and see if that's able to turn better. What do you think? Should we move over to the two-wheel, or should we try the scoop plow again, or should we try angling more? What do you think? All right, we have a vote for two wheel.
All right.
Let's do it. Let's switch over to the two wheel.
All right. Here we are. All right, so let's try this one. Maybe a little too much chips here. Maybe I should make it a little easier for us so we can see some stuff.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna make it a little bit easier on us.
we're gonna make it a little bit easier for the robot at the start, just to see. Because we're trying to show something here and it's not
Not quite going to plan.
quite working the way we want. Okay, let's try that again.
Too turn aggressive.
Yeah, we're a little turn aggressive. So, but in any case, the first time we tried pushing this, we're able to turn a lot faster than we were with the tracked version. So that seems like if we were pushing a smaller amount of chips, it seems like this would be a better way to go. But it seems like we have so many chips that this method probably isn't going to work the best. And that's okay. So why don't we, let's see, should we stay with the two wheel and try and make some changes that work with this two wheeled one? Or should we go back to the tread? Should we go back to the treads? All right, we're going to go back to the treads. Okay, so we're back to the treads. Now, should we try this curving method and adjust it a little bit, or should we try a different method? Should we try going straight? All right, we're going to try the curve. Okay, so we've tried it with the long plow for curving, and we've tried it with the short plow for curving. Why don't we try it with the scoop? Let's do that. Let's see how that goes. All right, let's try curving, but now with the scoop. Let's let this one run for it. Oh, uh-oh. We appear to have had, so we've had a mechanical difficulty with the track, which this is something that can actually happen with tracked vehicles, is where if one of the segments starts to break, then it disables the vehicle completely. So this is something that works a little bit better on more traditional wheeled type vehicles, so that this doesn't happen. Try it with this guy here while we're doing that.
So while we're fixing that one, we'll try it again with this, with our two wheel guy. This time with hopefully a fewer chips. The right one? No, we're busy, right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, still turning too hard. Whoops. Programming machine.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, we have these things programmed, and sometimes that's not necessarily tuned quite right. Unfortunately, we don't really have time to fix the program on it, but in practice, maybe someone could make that turn a little less when it's trying to back up. So someone who comes in and codes it might be able to make adjustments for it. I want to try one of the other programs.
Yeah. So let's try going forward and then backing up again with the two wheel. Let's see how well that goes with the scoop at an angle.
Notice that the wheels are having some difficulty with the chip. If there are chips where the wheels are, it doesn't work quite as well. That's one weakness of wheels compared to tracks. The tracks have a better performance when they're going over rough terrain or over obstacles. Wheels don't work quite so well. But it's doing a kind of admirable job. One thing I've kind of noticed is the scoop means that the plow kind of orients itself to the chips. Honestly, it's one of the better ones we've had in a little while. Yeah. Again, it keeps piling it up. So you can imagine if this were a really long sidewalk, it would eventually hit the point where it couldn't push back on this anymore. It would just kind of keep compacting snow in one little section. But for our little demonstration room, this did pretty all right. I'd say that's probably a little bit over 3. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. We covered on that. Yes. All right.
All right, so now let's try it again. Let's try it again with the tracks, now that the tracks have been fixed.
Our scoop plow causes us to constantly change the high, which is cool. Way to go, bud. We're encountering more mechanical difficulty.
Uh-oh. All right. We'll let the track one breathe for a little bit.
All right. You want to try another plow or another plowing strategy?
All right, we want to try another plow. Okay. So we have the scoop, we have the long plow, and we have the short plow. So the long plow is going to be able to push a bit more snow or wood chips, but the shorter one is going to be a little bit easier for the robot to use. So do you want to go try the long plow or the short plow? Long plow. All right, let's try the short plow.
What's the word? What's our design look like? An angle? At an angle? Straight? How do we want to try it?
Should we put the short plow at an angle or straight? Angle. All right. Okay. We've angled it so far to the left. Do we want to try angling it to the right? Should we keep angling it to the left? What should we do? All right, let's try angling it to the right. See how that does.
How's our track robot coming? Is he okay?
We're working on it. He's getting better.
Chips.
All right. Why don't we let's try this one again. So now we have the short plow and we're kind of angling it to the right. So let's see how well this works.
We're having a lot of difficulty running over those wood chips. Every time it drives over those wood chips, it kind of gets bounced around.
Now that we've fixed the tracked one, let's try using the track instead. Okay. Now we've got the track and we're angled to the right. All right, let's try this.
But notice that it was quite better at going over those chips. It doesn't quite.
So with the tracks, if the robot runs over the chips, it seems to be able to handle it a little bit better. But I don't know if you saw this, Ian, but what I saw was that as the robot drove over the chips, the plow was pushing it, but there were chips now at the side. And so because the plow is narrower, the robot has to end up driving over the chips.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that means that we shouldn't be using this short plow. Maybe we should try using the longer plow. What do you think? Yeah, we could take a little bit of a break and talk about how do we make this? How do we make this robot? So we used, so if you're familiar with Legos and that sort of a thing, this is a kit you can get from Lego. It's called the Lego Mindstorms, which lets you make simple programs on your computer and program a robot and let it move the way you want. And then we designed a couple different plow options that could kind of snap onto the robot so that we could do this demonstration today.
This is a kind of cool little bit of thing that also bears mentioning. You know, we don't necessarily know how the plow is going to orient on the ground. We want to make sure that it always lays flat, and that's why there's a pivot here. Actually, there's a couple of pivots here so that we can have this tilt just a little bit back and forth to kind of ride over things or to level itself to the ground. There's also a pivot like this so that it never has to like float above the thing. It can always lie flat on the ground. So when you have systems that interact on the ground like this, you want to make sure that there's some flexibility there.
And also for inspiration, we do some work in prototyping and designing robots that can actually plow snow. So as an example, we have one of those over here that we're basing our work off of right now. So this one's name is Otto, and what it is that it has all-wheel drive, so it has 4 kind of knobbly wheels, and a plow mounts on
right here.
A plow mounts right there, and this little black arm here can lift up and down so that the plow is always touching the ground. which is just like what we did on the little Lego one.
Also, this plow has a little lever that I can use to change the angle of the plow, just like we were changing on the Lego one. So we can decide if we want to angle the plow to the left or to the right, or have it straight.
Yeah. So these are the kinds of decisions that we have to make while trying to make a snow plow that plows snow in the best way possible.
We also, for reference, have a number of different types of plows. Just like we have angled plows like that, we have short plows, we have long plows. The white upstairs. We have plows that are made of metal, and some plows that are made of plastic to be lighter. So we play around with all these different kinds of decisions when trying to make our snowplow plow the best possible.
Yes. But one thing to note is that when we're using these, when we're using these big snow plows, if something goes wrong, it's a big machine and it's heavy and it could potentially hurt somebody. So if we're trying to make, decisions about simple strategies to try, we can always prototype on a smaller robot so that if it breaks, it's not a big deal, and we can tell that the strategy we were trying to use isn't a good one. So you can use either physical small ones like this or virtual small ones in the computer so that we can test without having to necessarily run the big robot out in the real world.
One difference between this Lego robot and ours is that this Lego robot doesn't know where it is. It has no idea of how it is on the grid. Our robot has a number of different features like GPS and a LiDAR, and it uses those to determine maybe where it is and where it has to go. Now, this robot doesn't have that because it's Lego. It's a little too simple, but bigger ones can make more smart decisions about where they have to go or where they are.
Yeah. So these are the kinds of things that have to go into making also something like a self-driving car. You need to be able to you can't just drive straight without seeing anything. It has to use cameras and lasers to see how far away everything is. Somebody asked if it runs on fuel. So they can run on fuel, and a self-driving car could definitely run on fuel. Ours runs on batteries just because that's a bit easier to deal with, and we don't have to use a gas engine. But people can definitely make ones that use gas and run on gas. Gas has the advantage that as you keep using gas, it always kind of behaves the same until it runs out of gas. Whereas with a battery, as you start to run low, the battery gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and you can't quite push with the same amount of force as the battery gets lower and lower.
So also, one kind of benefit of gas as opposed to batteries is that gas tends to have more power, at a point in time than our batteries can. There's a rate at which we can draw and use power, but we can keep that power on and off, and we don't have to use it all at the same time or keep it running and idling with the same amount of energy costs.
Yeah. And we tried a different variety of plow shapes. One that we didn't build that some people might consider would be a V-shaped plow. So that would be, because the closest we have is a scoop like this. So what some people might wonder if you wanted to use or not would be a plow kind of shaped like this. So the problem with doing a V-shaped plow like this is that all the weight of the snow or the chips that we're pushing all becomes pushing at the center point of the V. So now you have to push all the weight of those chips all from one location. Whereas if we have a scoop or a more flat plow, then you don't have the weight doesn't all build up here. It gets kind of spread out over the whole shape of the scoop so that we don't have to push quite as hard.
thought you were talking about like the cow catcher kind of plow. So you could also have a V in the opposite direction, kind of like that, where this half of it is angled this way and the other half is angled that way, and it pushes snow off on both sides. We just didn't build one of those, but you could. One kind of negative of that is you might not have as much control over where you're putting snow. So, for instance, if you're plowing a sidewalk, you might want to make sure that you're not plowing it into someone's driveway, for instance. And this you can kind of control where you're putting it. But with a V, you'd just be dumping it off of the road or off of the sidewalk.
Yeah. So to kind of show what we mean by that, since we neglected to make a plow shaped like that, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration. So if we lay out the snow, as long as you're able to push it with a plow that's, oriented one way or another, you can always kind of control where the chips are going to go. So we can push it like that and then push it like that, something along those lines. Whereas if we push with a plow shaped like this, what ends up happening is that it works really well, but now the chips are pushed to both sides. So if we're working in a scenario where, you're trying to plow a lane of a road on a highway, now you're stuck with snow getting pushed to either side. That's why the snow plows that go and drive on the freeway, when there's a big snowstorm, have the plow facing one side or the other. It's so that it can push the snow off the road into the grass on the side, so that it doesn't have to do the same work twice, moving over to a different section.
Sometimes you'll see them even work in tandem, where there'll be two sets of plows offset, so that they can kind of clear the whole thing in shorter time by one kind of moving some of it, the other one moving the rest of it.
All right, so we tried with this little plow. So why don't we try using the bigger plow at this angle and see how that goes for us. Does anyone have any other questions about either robots in general or, anything else? All right, that's an honest answer. No.
One thing that makes working with robots kind of difficult is that there are all these different features that interact. The mechanical design and the code both work, hand in hand. So it's very difficult to have a specialty in building something without understanding how you're going to use it, and vice versa. It's difficult to design how to use something if you don't know what it mechanically is capable of. So working with robots means you have to know both sides of it.
So let's try with the tracks and the big straight plow at an angle to the right.
Seems like this one's able to push a little bit more, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, but it seemed to be pushing the weight of the chips kept trying to push us that way. So why don't I try correcting a little bit to the right. Let's see if that fixes it.
But we'll try that one again because it looks like it was doing really well.
All right. So we're going to run this one, and then just for fun at the end, we're going to run both at the same time.
Oh, head to head
to see what happens.
Liking that. You can see that this is working quite a lot better, but it's not quite tuned just right. I think with a little bit of tuning, this would be a really good strategy.
Yeah. So now we're almost out of time. So why don't we let's put both in the arena facing, going from opposite ends, and see which one ends up working the best. Okay, here. Yeah. That's what I want. And then why don't you put the big one, or the big plow? Yeah, put the big choice. All right.
I'm trying to
So okay. All right. You want to do straight and back or just straight?
Let's just do straight.
All right. Okay.
Ready to go. And who do you guys think is going to win?
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Looks like the winner is going to be our tank tread plow. Well, it looks like with a score of basically 2-1, our tank tread plow wins today.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you have a good rest of the day.